This staff also low-key has a couple legitimate head coaching candidates for the future, in Sacco. Joe Sacco's been a head coach at the NHL level before. Um, Jay Leach, at the AHL level, candidate to be a head coach at the NHL level, both young. So I think it's an interesting staff of
And Chris Kelly, too.
Chris Kelly for sure.
Poke the Bear is powered by PrizePicks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network.
And welcome into Poke the Bear, episode 237, presented by PrizePicks. Go use that promo code CLNS to get up to $100 cash back on that first deposit. If you're picking Celtics stuff, different, Jason Tatum, more or less points, Jaylen Brown, more or less points, Derek White, Kristaps when he was in, you're probably doing pretty well on there. So hopefully continue that prior to game 4. And if you want to go to game 4, if you want to go down to Dallas, everyone's talking about the resale value of the tickets in Dallas plus a flight is less than what it would be for like game 5 here, which I think is true.
That's
go to
not
game
surprising.
time.
Yeah,
it isn't. It's not. Go to GameTime, use that promo code CLNS to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Also, if you want to go to that watch party for game 4 at the Garden, it's not like my cup of tea, but it's basically like you're at the game. I mean, you're there with a bunch of fans.
place was rocking.
If my friends were all going, I could be convinced for sure. But you can get tickets there on Game Time. So go to Game Time, use that promo code CLNS to get $20 off that first purchase. Terms apply. I am Evan Marinofski. That is Conor Ryan. Connor, what is up?
Evan, I'm doing well. How you doing?
Doing great. Doing great. You had quite the Wednesday night. How was the Brady ceremony?
I have to say it exceeded my expectations. I think maybe it's just maybe the sarcastic, I think most people go into those things thinking it's going to be just all fluff, or it's going to be, the way some of those things can be set up where it's a very long ceremony. But I exceeded my expectations, Evan. I think all the speeches were great. A lot of good surprises. And what it kind of took from it is obviously it was Brady's big day, but it kind of felt like a tribute and a reflection on kind of the entire dynasty. So whether it's Randy Moss getting moved to tears with an ovation, all these other players who played key roles for 20 years of dominance, to kind of get their flowers, get their ovations in front of a packed Gillette Stadium. And some of the other things, right? You had Drew Bledsoe there. You had Jay-Z show up. You had Kenny Chesney. Yeah, that was pretty crazy. It felt like a nice bow on, what was...
Bill Belichick got the ovation before he spoke, that stuff.
Exactly, yeah. So it doesn't make me mad that dumbass Netflix special was before this. It does feel like if this was the first time Belichick came out and had an embrace with Brady, it would have hit even more. It was still awesome. The ovation and all that stuff was great, but that stupid Netflix special kind of took some of the thunder away from it. But as a whole, for what was such a, I think, significant part of, I think, all of our lives in terms of growing up here and every Sunday being able to relax as the Brady and the Patriots would drop 40 on the Bills. To relive that and I think appreciate that and kind of put a final bow on that 20-year run was it very cool to be a part of. It's easy to go into those things being like, all right, let's see what, you look at some of those things like the Red Sox ceremonies where they go on forever and just you have some eye rolly kind of moments there. This one I think hit on all the right notes. And it was very, very cool to be a part of it.
I think the best thing is they did it in the off season. It was an event in and of itself. It wasn't prior to a game. You went for that. The only, knock was it was the night of game 4 of the NBA finals. That's the tough thing. And,
3.
But 3, that's right. Game 3. I didn't watch it. I was actually in Foxborough during this, just not at that. I was at Foxborough Sports Center.
Oh, damn.
No. I was at the Foxborough Sports Center for the Foxborough Prep League during the summer.
Ooh.
I was there with Mark Diver. So we were catching up. We were putting together our Bruins lineups for this upcoming year. I mean,
I don't know, Evan. I hear rumors that when you're not over at the Foxborough Center, we hear that you always hang around Toby Keith's "I Love This Bar."
I can't help it. It's just too good. I can't get away from it.
Evan his red Solo cup and he levitates off the ground for a few minutes,
like the Baron in Dune when he goes across the table.
Yes, exactly.
I just watched that for the first time the other night. By the way,
great film. A little weird, but great film.
Weird, hard to follow. I fell asleep probably 4 times in the first hour because I'm not the biggest sci-fi movie guy, but I rebounded and I I kept looking up everything during the movie to try to understand it. I watched the thing after. So I get it. I'm ready to watch Dune 2. As you say,
Right.
I'm always behind these things. I'm never like ahead of it. I see these films and TV shows years later. So
I
that's
mean,
a
what
continuation of
Dune
that.
came out in what 2021? Like that's not that bad. If it wasn't like Breaking
No.
Bad, where like I ruined your life by saying insert redacted character name here was deceased at the end of it, but
Yeah, well, that was different. That was different. I forgot about that one. I had a funny Wednesday night though. So this is a CLNS tie-in. So when I got home from the prep league, I was watching the Celtics game 3, and I listened on the radio coming home. And they Grandy and Max are electric. I mean, that is
yes.
a hell of a like Cedric Maxwell. You know when you like talking to the mic, like if you're on Xbox or PlayStation with some friends, and you put the mic like right here.
Mhm.
He'll put them. I swear, it's like the mic is right there, and he's screaming into it whenever something big happens. Which honestly is great because it's not in my ears; it's in the car.
Right.
So anyway, I come in after that third quarter. Celtics are up 1,000,000, and I walk in, and there's a whole like bunch of people at my house watching, and I'm like, "I've seen enough. It's over. The game is over. The series is over." And of course, the Celtics almost blew it in the fourth.
In that fourth quarter,
Um,
yes.
Yes. But anyway, so I go upstairs, I'm playing MLB The Show, and I'm watching the Garden Report, which is the you know how we do Bruins postgame shows?
Mhm.
They do Celtics postgame shows. They get a lot of viewers, and they do it after like every game, and there's a bunch of people that go on. So
Does
I'm just,
does does Carl Corzini jump on that too? Does he bring the
he
whiteboard?
should have. He should have. Yes.
He breaks down the pick and roll. He
That's
does the
right.
triangle offense.
He's like, here's how they're taking away the corner threes for Dallas. Um,
They're just
but
missing.
Yeah, exactly. And the best thing was, so I'm sitting there, and Jimmy Toscano was promoting his like hard hats. They have these cool hard hats
Oh
that
yeah.
they're selling now, and I commented, hard hat stays on during sex, and they put it on for everybody to see, and all the comments line up about it. I mean, come on, now. I mean, that I had to say it. It came into my
Right.
head. I had to say it. It was a late night. It was like 12 o'clock. And so John Zanis texts me on the side and says, "Just jump on with us." And I'm like, "Do you really you really want me to jump on like the Celtics? I know nothing. I'm not good at basketball." And I jumped on for like 10, 15 minutes. The comment section either didn't know who I was or thought I was like 7 years old. So it was a nice blend. There was a couple like hockey sucks. And I was like, "Come on, guys! Like have a
I
little
thought
respect."
you thought you were jumping in there. You thought you were gonna be like uh Doctor Strange showing up with the portals and Avengers, and everyone was just like,
Or
that's like if you showed up through the portal scene, they're like, who the fuck are you?
who are you? Like Charles Barkley showing up on the NHL set
Oh
with
yes.
Biz and everybody. Like it's like, oh, Barkley's here. It was like, oh, Evan's here. Yay.
I would have been hyped, Evan, if I saw it.
Well, I appreciate it. But it was fun. I think I turned some people onto my side. Hopefully they'll come subscribe to Bruins Rinkside, and so that was fun. It was a fun time. Good times for all. We're almost 8 minutes in. We haven't even touched the Bruins. It was such a big night on Wednesday for Boston sports. You had the Brady ceremony. You had the Celtics, one win away from the finals. You had the Red Sox. They did do something. They
They
won a game.
they won a game. I think they came back. So
Good for them. Congrats, guys. And the biggest news,
yes,
Jay Leach is back. Jay
yes,
Leach is back in black and gold. Jay Leach is an assistant now on Montgomery's staff. Joe Sacco has been promoted to associate head coach. And John McClain, who was an assistant before, who comes from a skills and skating background, is going to go back into a sort of a position like that. Clearly a good hire. I mean, Leach was sort of, he's the Providence head coach for quite a bit. I believe he was a name that was mentioned for the job after Cassidy left. So I think just having him on the staff, like, I think this is a good hire.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Jay Leach is a pretty accomplished coach, as you said. I think before even after he went to the Kraken, Heldon Heiregard here, especially, was viewed as like a potential coach in waiting. Still only 44 years old. So in terms of just adding more talent to the coaching staff, I think that's great. But also, I think in terms of, I think it kind of settles everyone's roles a little bit more, and it's more clearly defined, right? Because it's not like they're, I think a lot of the headlines, I think even the one I wrote was like Bruins reshuffle their coaching staff, which is true. Like they reshuffle, they move guys around, but it does seem like it's putting more people in spots where it's kind of their forte, right? Like you look at Joe Sacco gets a promotion, he's still going to be running the PK, which is obviously what he's been known for a while. But he primarily did a lot with the defenseman last year. And again, he's a forward. And it's not saying you can't do that, but when you have someone like Jay Leach, who was a defenseman, that was kind of his bread and butter throughout his career as a coach, to have him come back and get the reins of the defense. You put Joe Sacco in a spot where he can be kind of more of an overarching guy. And then even John McClain, right, where he moves back to the skills and skating department, but it's not really like a demotion or anything like that. Like he was,
No.
that was kind of his focus last year when he was a coach, and he was an eye in the sky coach during games as well. So, he's just kind of, I think, put in another spot where, again, his strengths and his talent can be probably maximized with working with this team as opposed to just being on the coaching staff. So I think, yeah, you look at just bringing in a talented coach like Jay Leach obviously helps. I think is still held in pretty high regard here, but I think more than that, just bringing him in just seems like it slots everyone in the proper spot where whatever their focus or their emphasis is as coaches, I think it just benefits the Bruins that much more.
This staff also low-key has a couple legitimate head coaching candidates for the future in Sacco. Joe Sacco's been a head coach at the NHL level before. Jay Leach, at the AHL level, candidate to be a head coach at the NHL level, both young. So I think it's an interesting staff of like
Chris Kelly too.
Chris Kelly for sure. And I think it's an interesting one because Kelly always gets, I know with Ottawa, Kelly was kind of mentioned on Twitter as like a guy, played there for a bit. Would he be a candidate? Wouldn't shock me if after this year things change in the sense that like one of them gets a job. And if, in the next couple of years or just the way the NHL head coaching carousel works, if, down the road, Jim Montgomery is let go, you might have your answer in-house. So I think that's another element to it as well. Not saying Jim Montgomery's getting fired. He's not. I'm just saying that, the way the league works, coaches don't last very long. You never know. You never know. So you do have the in-house guys there. So good on him. He gets to return after a little rendezvous out to Seattle. Now he's back where he belongs, I guess. So good for him. Congrats to him. And it looks like a pretty strong coaching staff. There's more. We've talked a lot about the Bruins going for the number 10 pick with the New Jersey Devils. But there's another team in the top 10 who is considering trading their pick. And they just so happen to also need a goalie. But first, a quick word from our friends over at PrizePicks.
The finals are right around the corner, and it's time for you to get in on the playoff action and win up to 100 times your cash on PrizePicks as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level with the title on the line. With PrizePicks, you can turn $10 into $1,000 in a single game watching your favorite sports this summer. With PrizePicks, you could turn $10 into $1,000 in a single game watching your favorite sports this summer. You can make a PrizePicks lineup in as little as 60 seconds. You just need to pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat predictions, and you're locked in. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Get on the daily action with your friends and become part of the PrizePicks community today. The finals mean more on PrizePicks, and so do the star players. You get boosted payouts on select basketball stars that you won't find anywhere else. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and a huge selection of players and stat types are what makes PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. And with the Celtics season still in full swing, there's plenty of opportunity to participate in PrizePicks. This week on PrizePicks, I'm selecting Jaylen Brown for more than 25 points and Derek White for more than 7 assists. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match of up to $100. Again, use code CLNS for a first deposit match of up to $100. PrizePicks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Now, let's get back to the show.
So a team we've talked about in the past is Ottawa. They've been interested in Linus Ullmark, but they also have the number 7 pick in the NHL draft. They also have your pick. They have the Bruins pick at 25. They got in the DeBrincat trade that went to Detroit. So you got to do the Charlie Kelly, yes. Remember the clip of Bill Belichick and Tom Brady where they're trying to devise how to beat Ed Reed, and Belichick sits back in his chair and he's like, oh, so it goes here and then it goes here. That's kind of how you have to map out how this
the trade tree. Yes.
How it went around. But so anyway, according to the fourth period, one of the execs of the Senators said, quote, "We had interest in the number 7 pick. teams will call you and say, are you interested in moving the pick? And you don't know what that's going to look like because you don't know what's going to be available there. You have to stay very flexible. The fourth period, and that was quoted by the Ottawa Citizen. The fourth period wrote this with the interviews with the Ottawa Citizen. The Senators could move back in the draft or trade the pick entirely for immediate help. The uncertainty in who could be available at the number 7 slot adds to the mystery. And the Senators Poulin mentioned that the Senators, no Celebrini's going 1, but after that, it is completely wide open, which is true. It is. I mean, Levshunov from Michigan State seems like a pretty obvious pick at number 2.
Yeah.
But even after that, it opens up. Like, I saw there was a mock draft yesterday by The Athletic. They had Caden Lindstrom going like 4th.
Yeah.
Other spots he's been like 14th. So like I
You
think
see like
it's open.
You see like Yzerman go like I saw one that had him like 7 or 8, then I saw one that had him at like 21. You have like the Denver defenseman who like is all over the top 10. The good thing for the Bruins is like just probably I guess jumping ahead, if they do get a top 10 pick, is that it does seem like it's very heavy. You got Celebrini 1, then a lot of like defensemen and wings are all kind of making a majority of the top 10, which I don't know if maybe that's you want more top 10 centers, but it does seem like if you get between 7 and 10, there's probably going to be one or the second or the third or the fourth probably center on the draft board is probably going to be there for you.
Yeah, like I saw like Berkeley Caton in that draft that Lindstrom went 4th, went like 12th. And he was initially pegged as a guy higher. So like I think there are different options, but I don't mind it. Like I'm all for it. Like get in there, get a high-end player, get your hand, develop them, all that stuff. Like I'm for it. And now if they got Cole Yzerman, I mean, that would be awesome. BU guy, Newburyport Mass guy. Speaking of locals, I mentioned this in the Jay Leach segment. Yes. Congrats to Ryan Warsofsky, next head coach of the Sharks from Marshfield.
Marshfield zone.
Congratulations to Ryan Warsofsky for getting the big promotion to the Sharks bench boss. But the Senators, it's interesting because Senators, this is according to the fourth period, have been evaluating the goaltending market as well. GM Steve Stais has reached out to the New Jersey Devils about Markstrom, Linus Ullmark, and Nashville Predators, UC Soros. Apparently, I can't read. However, the Senators have wanted to move Jonas Korpisalo in a deal, and that seems to be a sticking point. I don't know how that would work with the Bruins.
I don't know who the hell wants Korpisalo.
Anybody want Jonas? Anybody want Jonas? Here he is. We're dangling him. By the way, that person who was speaking in the quotes was Senators Senior Vice President Dave Poulin. I should also mention that. So, I mean, again, like we've talked about this with the number 10 pick, could the Devils be desperate enough to do a number 10 for Ullmark swap? I think the same question goes with the Senators. It seems like they want Linus Ullmark. I think the sticking point in this kind of trade, I think they probably would do that. I mean, it sounds like they would give more from what other execs or another exec has said. But would Linus Ullmark accept a trade to Ottawa? That's the biggest thing. And I think like New Jersey, I think you have a better chance than not. I don't know about Ottawa.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that is the biggest sticking point. I just can't see Ullmark, signing off on a trade out there because again, unless it's something where you have a long-term deal locked up there. But again, like if you're Ullmark and you're trying to pick where your next spot is going to be, and you look at Ottawa and they play like 35 minutes outside of the city. Doesn't really get high marks. That's a team that have some good pieces, but they're not like the Devils where you look at just the talent they have and you'd be like, all right, then maybe they're a goalie away. There's so many of these teams that we've talked about with Ullmark as possible fits where, it just does seem like they're just one piece or two from being a legitimate contender. Even like, there's other teams people have mentioned where, again, maybe they're not a proven contender, but if he goes there and it's a place where like, again, it's where NHL players go and they settle down with their families, like Raleigh's a popular place where a lot of guys settle down. Even like Columbus, where that team is not a good team right now, but who knows what Don Waddell wants to do there. That's a team that has a lot of people settle down in the Columbus area. You don't really hear that about Ottawa all that much. So
no.
I just think you look at all the multiple factors that I'm sure are going through Ullmark's head as, he kind of figures out what his next step is. I just can't see Ottawa being that spot. Now, like if the Bruins find out that the number 7 pick is there, 1-for-1 or for something like that, I wouldn't do it if it's bringing back Korpisalo because I think he stinks and I don't like that.
I have no interest in that. No.
But I think beyond just looking at that number 7 pick in Ottawa, I think it just reinforces that maybe the Ullmark market is something that is higher than we thought. 'Cause I feel like we talked about this right as the year ended, and we're like, all right, like if they get 2 second-round picks, the biggest thing is just the cap space. That's great. Look at it now, and you look at just who's out there, what are being rumored as being possible trade chips, whether it's a top 10 pick, whether it's an impact player like Marty Necas or something like that. It's going to be fascinating to see just how this market pans out, because like I feel like what happens if Ullmark does get traded and it is for a high second round pick and another prospect. Again, nice return for an asset that you don't plan on having here long term, but you see all these rumors, you feel like people are going to get let down if it's not a 25 goal scorer or a top 10 pick or anything like that. It just feels the market's so tough to gauge.
That's the thing. I think if it ends up coming in a little bit less, people are gonna be like, "What were you guys talking about? This is so underwhelming." And it's like, well, these were the rumors. And I think also
it's silly season. It's the lead up to the draft and free agency.
It is. We get to imagine, which is fun. Also, if it was a second rounder and like a high prospect, that's not bad. Like, I mean, that's not great. It's not that it's not great. It's not like my ideal scenario, because my ideal scenario is you trade him for the number 10 pick or the number 7 pick. And it's like, holy crap, we're in the top 10 now if you're the Bruins. But if it was a second rounder and a high prospect, like that's two. He's got 2 higher end prospects coming into your system. And I'm okay with that too. So like I want the cap space, and I want, an infusion of 1 or 2 higher end players. And if it's a top 10 pick, awesome. I think that's terrific. I just think in this situation, I think 7 is, that's not happening, just in the sense that I don't think he's accepting a trade to Ottawa. I don't see it. I don't see it. All the things you said. And I also think the team in front of him is not good enough. Like, one thing we've talked about in the past is if you go to a Carolina or New Jersey or Colorado or an LA, you have a chance to go to a really good team and put up good numbers. Who was the last goalie in Ottawa? I know they haven't had amazing goaltending. Like, who was the last goalie in Ottawa to put up like top 10 in the NHL numbers? Like, I honestly cannot remember. Was it Craig Anderson? Like, and
that's top 10 too. That's the thing. They've had like some guys who obviously have gone on like runs and have had good little stretches here, but like top 10. I
mean, they've not been a good defensive team for a while. And I just think that also doesn't bode well, along with the location. And I don't think they're sort of in NHL no man's land with that team. Like, they have good young players coming up. Everybody wants Brady Kachuk, but like contending next year, I don't know. So yeah, I mean, again, it's a fun thing to think about, the number 7 pick, but I'm eyeing that number 10 pick with New Jersey. I think that's the sweet spot on the baseball bat. Game Time. Our friends over at Game Time. Here's a quick word from them.
The NBA Finals are right around the corner, and if you're a Celtics fan, odds are that TD Garden is going to be packed in June as the Celtics go for Banner 18. And if you want to cheer on the C's inside the Garden, you got to go with Game Time tickets. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace that makes getting NBA Finals tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. And the best part about Game Time tickets, you can browse through the Game Time app to find great seats at affordable prices for all sorts of in-demand games, concerts, and other events. Want to snag last-minute tickets to a concert? Game Time tickets has you covered. Maybe a Sunday matinee game at Fenway Park, or one of those spur-of-the-moment Friday night games watching the Sox. And with the Patriots and Bruins season set to get started later on in the fall, you can't go wrong with going to the Game Time app to find tickets ahead of time. It's really that easy, the action. And with flash deals and zone deals available, you can make it to some of the most in-demand games at the last second. With these last-minute deals, you can save up to 60% off buying seats for sporting events, concerts, comedy, theater shows, and a whole lot more. Some of my favorite features of the app include seat views, where you can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, and the lowest price guarantee, or else Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So what are you waiting for? Take the guesswork out of buying NBA Finals tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Now, let's get back to the show.
So, fun little story. This is years ago now, but Evander Kane was on the Pardon My Take podcast a couple days ago and mentioned that when he KO'd Matt Cooke, the Bruins sent him a gift basket. I think that's amazing. That's outstanding. And then to think of kind of Evander Kane's relationship after that with the Bruins soured, but for a fleeting second, he was on their good side.
I mean, that was also I think like less than a month, or maybe just a little over a month after the Matt Cooke hit on Savad. So it was like right after that. The Bruins fans are still pissed about how that whole thing went down. Obviously, then you got I think it was rookie Evander Kane there. I want to say it was the Thrashers' last game of the season too. So like literally Matt Cooke's final game to close out the regular season just gets walloped, one punished by Evander Kane. But
Was
not
that
surprising.
The last game of the season?
It was. I'm sure that was what 2010. So Penguins obviously went into the playoffs, but it was like April 10th or something like that, April 7th, something like that. For when that game was. So, video is great. Still, one, you got the throwback Thrashers jerseys, which it feels like the NHL wants to go back to Atlanta. I don't know why, but that's that's a topic for another day. But I just think you look at that video, and it's not surprising at all to see the Bruins maybe sent him a little gift basket. Maybe it was Dunkin' Donuts gift card, a couple of flowers, something like that. Not surprising based on just how much we were talking about all-time Bruins sports, Bruins villains. Matt Cooke's gonna be right up there. I was like going through like all the other plays he had, right, where he elbowed Ryan McDonough. Remember he like stepped on Carlson's heel. I mean, he like severed his Achilles or something like that. Like, it's a pretty shitty player.
So now in hockey, I believe there is a little protector you can put on your Achilles to protect from things like that happening. But it's fluke plays. That was intentional when he stepped on his Achilles. Like that was as bad as it gets. Such a scumbag. I just the way he played, he was a jackass on the ice. And when that because Cooke was going after Kane. I was just watching the video of that as you were talking, and like Cooke goes after Kane, and Kane's like, all right, like, you want to go? Like, let's do it. And just like, boom. Like, it was such a just clean too. And Cooke went right out.
I think at the end of that video too, Kane mentions that the very next time they met, he got a high elbow from Cooke, and then Cooke wouldn't fight him. So
that's the other YouTube video. There's a YouTube video right after that. It's like, Cooke elbows Kane up high. The other thing I found interesting from that interview, I was reading your story in Boston.com, that Kane has watched the video like 300 times.
Respect. You always feel like hockey players like, I'm pretty humble about those things. I want these guys to be watching these videos like 500 times when that happens.
Like, I watch that shit before I go to bed every night.
To watch Torey Krug obliterating Robert Thomas. Like, how many times has he watched that video?
Yes, 100%. Speaking of Krug, I saw somewhere, and I don't know if it's real or not. So, like, I this is just off the top of my head. This isn't on the show agenda, but I don't know if there's rumors or something out of the St. Louis about them buying Krug out. I don't know how real it is, but would you take him back at a lower price?
I mean, listen, I love Torey Krug's game. I love what he provided here as a veteran. I don't know. I just think you look at where Lohrei is and what he provides, and Krug bring him back on a cheap deal would be awesome. Like, just having him here as like a third pairing kind of guy on the left side. But I feel like that's going to cut into what you hope Lohrei builds into. So, like, again, if you want him back on a cheap deal, like, you explore that option, I guess. But you look at just what his role is, what his strengths are at this stage of his career, and what you hope Mason Lohrei develops into. And again, I also don't feel like Torey Krug at this stage of his career is going to be like, all right, and here's the time of my career where I'm signing the $1 million cap hit deal. Like, he still can probably be a very coveted asset for a team that needs like a power play, quarterback at the top of the list. So, listen, Krug's a great player. I just don't feel like he fits with what this team needs right now, especially with Lohrei here. If Lohrei wasn't here, screw it. Bring him back as the power play specialist. But like with Lohrei there now, give him time to kind of settle into that role and be your 22, 23-year-old guy that you build here for the long term.
So Daily Faceoff, Frank Zaravalli had him as like a buyout candidate for this offseason. And then like I think I saw it was Bruins Benders podcast tweeted out, would Bruins fans want him? I'm in agreement with you. Love Torey Krug, love what he brought, hell of a player. I just think with the emergence of Mason Lohrei, I don't know if that's what you need. I think you need more of a veteran shutdown left shot defenseman than you do a veteran power play specialist. And again, I know the power play was bad last year at times, struggled down the stretch. He would help that, but I just think that gets in the way of Lohrei. And then it's like, all right,
Yeah.
so your left side is Lohrei, Lindholm, and Krug. That's not like the toughest
Yeah.
three to play against. You need a shutdown guy in there.
I just look at what Lohrei brings. He's, his skating ability, his ability to activate, move down the half wall. He does some of the things that in time you hope he becomes Torey Krug, right? Like, which is how
100%.
mobile he can be. But he's also 6'5", and he's also a lot younger and a lot cheaper. Like, again, it's just in terms of you look at it from a business perspective, like it just makes the most sense in terms of going with the asset you have that's younger, that even maybe has higher upside, or even if it becomes production-wise what Torey Krug is, you have more to work with, a guy that can also play 22 minutes a night down the road and be a 6'5" guy that's going to continue to fill out there.
100%. 100%. Someone else who's an interesting name was Patrik Laine. Entered the NHL PA Players Assistance Program in January. Has struggled on the ice the last couple of seasons. Signed a big deal with Columbus. Carries an $8.7 million average annual value. Would you take a flyer on this if they dangled him and ate some of that money?
I probably wouldn't. And again, like you look at just the baseline numbers and you can, view a guy that in the right spot could go back to being a 35, 40 goal scorer, right? The talent's there. I just don't think it's worth it in terms of one, like what the price is going to be, even for a depressed asset like that, in terms of just where his production has been from, his early years. And again, it just comes down to, what you're paying to get him. Like, he's still got an $8.7 million cap hit. You have the cap space, but how much of that are you going to allocate towards a guy that has all the potential of being a 40 goal top six player, but you just don't really know there. You add in like the defensive part of his game. It just, I think if you have this cap space and you have some of these assets that you can dangle out there, I wouldn't use it on a guy that's like a better Mike Hoffman, right? Like just kind of 25, 35 goal scorer that can help you, I guess, but like at what cost in terms, especially his cap hit, what you're giving up, all that stuff. I think there's other options if the Bruins are looking for trade chips that make just a little bit more sense.
I get the desire from some that would want to do that because you do need to score goals at a better rate next year. In theory, like he could help that. I don't know. That's a lot of money. How much are they eating? What's it going to take to get him? I guess if they, let's say, like, okay, hypothetical, if the Blue Jackets said we're going to eat half, so you're paying like what 4.3 around that, and you have to give up, a late round pick or something. I'm just off the top of my head of, we don't know what the market would be, but it would be something around that. Maybe, but that's still like a good chunk of money. That's not like, $2 million a year. That's $4.3 million per year. And that takes you out of probably signing another wing. Like, because again, if DeBrusk walks, ideally, you're signing a number one center this offseason, probably Lindholm. And then, like, I think you're going after either like a Bertuzzi, a Toffoli, a Duclair, two or more of those kinds of wingers, like, Mantha, whatever. Like, would you take Laine over those guys? I get why people might want to, but I don't know. A lot of question marks there. So I don't know if that's the best use of your funds, so to speak. Anyways, Connor, what can the people look forward to from you over at the Globe and Boston.com?
Yeah, we'll have you covered every step of the way this offseason, whether it's trade rumors, free agency, the draft, which maybe all of a sudden we have to start looking at some mock drafts if a couple of trades go down. So we'll see there. But
that'd be electric. We start breaking down prospects. We got, we'd have to do some sort of fun game of like picking players and
the big board.
The big board. Yeah, the Felger and Maz big board. We'll do the same thing.
But yeah, we'll have all that stuff over at Boston.com and the Boston Globe. So follow along there. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can at Conor Ryan _93.
Go do all that. We're presented by PrizePicks and GameTime. That's Conor Ryan. I'm Evan Marinofski. Poke the Bear listeners. Have a great rest of your week.